Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast, December 17th, Tuesday night about 9 o'clock. Drake and Kansas State just went to overtime, so you're going to get some updates of that game as we go. Drake, one of the, I think, 5 undefeated teams is what they said, so doing another good showing against a very, very pretty good, I would say definitely top half, maybe top quarter team in Kansas State out of the Big 12. They're in Kansas City. But Drake definitely doing making Des Moines proud, and, they're continuing a good run no matter how the game ends up. It's going to be all right.
Drake's had a pretty good season so far, haven't they?
Yeah, they're undefeated. So
okay, yeah,
they won that tournament around Thanksgiving. Beat Miami and beat Vanderbilt, and then obviously, playing a heck of a game against Kansas State here. So yeah, they seem to be the real deal. No one kind of knew what would happen because the guy came from Northwest Missouri State. He's from Iowa. Most of these kids are from Kansas City. He brought 4 kids from Northwest Missouri State. They have won 4 national championships. I don't know what years he all won them. I don't think they won it last year. Maybe they did. But a lot of these kids they win a lot of basketball games. And when you win, it's contagious, and they just know how to win. No matter what level you're at. You can see sometimes out here they're not as athletic as Kansas State guys, but they play basketball the right way, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, a big win if they can get it. Yeah, I haven't really watched much of the men's college basketball yet this season, but it sounds like everybody's doing good, men's and women's, in the state of Iowa, right? You muted yourself, Morg.
There we go. Sorry.
There you go. You're back now.
Yep, Iowa State women are getting run out of the gym again by Connecticut. They've now played 3 of the 4 Final Four teams from last year. Obviously, the Iowa game was very close, but now the South Carolina and UConn game just shows the difference. They're not a top 5 team. They're probably a top 20 team, maybe top 25 team. That's about it. I don't think they're playing real well right now. They need to figure some things out. But we'll see. I think they will be better in March than they are right now. So, but then obviously the Iowa State men are number 3 in the country with their 1 loss to number 2 Auburn on a last-second tip-in, playing as good as anybody in the country. And they got a game Sunday, and then they'll go from there, take a few days off, and then the conference will start right around New Year's. But then the Iowa men, played a great game against Iowa State. Actually, I think last Thursday, about a week ago now, held the lead for most of the game, but Iowa State did pull away there at the end. I think they're 1-1 in the conference, and they kind of go out of conference for a few games here and then back in. But yeah, overall, basketball in the state of Iowa has been really good. The Drake women are good. The UNI women are pretty good. The UNI men, I watched last night a little bit. They beat Montana by 30. Obviously, Drake's playing well. So, yeah, so it's setting up to be a pretty good winter here in Iowa if you like basketball.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch any of the Cyhawk games last week. We had our sales meeting there in Virginia, so it was just busy each night. But I did watch the Iowa women play Michigan State the other night, and between the two teams, I think there was 82,000 turnovers combined. So it was one of the uglier games I've ever watched in a long time, I should say.
Yeah, that's the Achilles heel of the Iowa women. Tennessee pressed them, made them force 30 turnovers. I didn't watch any of the Michigan State game. That's I kind of heard they had a lot of turnovers again. Teams that pressure them are going to give them fits, but Iowa State doesn't do that. That's just not how Iowa State plays. So they were able to do kind of whatever they wanted against Iowa State.
Yeah, we'll see if the Iowa women can get that get that press break figured out this year because, yeah, the two games that I've seen, for whatever reason, they're really struggling with it this year.
Yeah, it's just, and a different coach, they do things a little bit different. I think they play a little bit different defensively, and just everything's just a little bit different. But I do think they're better than I thought they would be. And a couple of those freshmen are really, really good, and they're going to be really good.
Yeah, the freshmen are impressive. Needs Sydney Falter. She's a little bit rusty still after that surgery or whatever's going on, but I think she had a good game last week, maybe it was. But
yeah, she played a good game.
She can wear that rust off and get her back.
Yeah,
okay.
She
can get back to kind of where she was last year. That'll help.
Yeah, she played really good against Iowa State and made a couple of huge plays down the stretch for her. So that's where we're going. And probably enough basketball. Our Drake is up 4 with 2 minutes left. So we'll keep you updated there. But kind of turn our attention to football now. Do you want to go with college first or the NFL first? What do you want to go with?
Let's go with we got playoff game starting Friday in college. Let's go with college.
Okay, college first. So obviously the inaugural college football playoffs start Friday, Notre Dame, and then 3 games Saturday, coinciding with NFL. The Chiefs play, and that we're going to have that conversation here coming up when we talk NFL, the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. But just super excited. Yes, is it ideal? I've heard some things that Notre Dame people aren't real happy because the NCAA and the playoff committee, it's not the NCAA, I guess, the playoff, but Indiana's going to have an intro. They're going to have their own music to come out to. The playoff committee is dictating a little bit of how the game ops are done. So it's not going to be as much of a home field advantage as maybe we thought, besides being in your home place and home fans for the most part, and not having. And we got an email about this that it wouldn't you wouldn't be guaranteed a seat in the playoffs if you hosted. We got that from Iowa State just because of a little bit of corporate dollars, not as many student section tickets. Because it's kind of like when you go to the playoff or start making the state tournament run in basketball, all that money goes to the state. Yes, if the game might be at New Sharon in North Mahaska, but all that money goes to the state, and then they pay back the school to cover their costs. But the money does go to the state, just like all the money is going to the college football playoff for this. Obviously, they're going to get money back to cover their expenses, but I do think that is going to make this seem more like a neutral site than it could. And I don't like that. You earn the right to host the game. You should be able to do it your way.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that either. That's the advantage of getting one of the top seeds that they didn't get the first 4 on the bye. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that either. When you're playing at home, it should be your music, your walkout. They walk out to whatever, but yeah, I'm not. I don't really like that either. That takes away a little bit, maybe not to the advantage, but just to the atmosphere of it. Yep. It should feel like a home game for all these home teams.
Yeah, I don't know how many fans Notre Dame Stadium holds. I'm going to say 75, 80,000. It's a big stadium. It's not a giant stadium. It's not 100,000. But let's just say it's 75,000 people. If it's 60,000 Notre Dame fans, they don't want to hear Indiana's pregame and hype video on the board. They don't want to play that. I mean, I don't know. That I think you earn that right to host the game, and that should not be happening. But we'll see how it is. Maybe that rumor is a little bit, maybe it is a rumor instead of what they're actually going to do. But when people are in charge that don't think of the best for the fans and for the players, they're just worried about money and the look. Things don't go the right way.
I think Notre Dame holds a little bit more than what you're saying, but I can't remember off the top of my head what the exact capacity is. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that. But we'll see. This whole playoff this first year, since they've expanded to 12, we've talked about some of the other issues that they're going to have to address next year. So we'll see how these intros go. I guess if enough people complain I would hope next year they would take that part out of it.
And we do have to give a little bit of grace. No one's ever done this before. They've never done this. This has never happened in college football. They've been playing it since 1890. Now, obviously, the game's way different now, but they've never done this before. So just like anything you do for a first time, they're all going to sit back in a meeting and what went well, what didn't go well, and hopefully they can make it better. I mean, that's just what should happen and what will happen, I know.
Yeah, they'll make improvements as time goes on. Now, I think I've maybe asked you this before, but do you know, can they expand to a larger playoff next year, or is there a contract that no expanding until a certain year?
I think it's 26. So I think, or maybe that's when they look at it. I think 2 years it's set, but then after that it can change. So I believe.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because of the bowl game agreements that they have, they probably can't expand right away just because of bowl game agreements with the TV networks and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, you and I both think it's going to get bigger, but I am looking forward to it. I'm going to be home Friday afternoon, so I'm sure I'll see you up at the Elks. That's where I'm planning to go, at least start to watch the game. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people up there. I think it's wing night, which would be fun. And, yeah, we'll have to see how this whole thing goes over the weekend.
Yeah, I won't be there Friday. That's when we have Christmas at my mom and dad's. So I won't be there Friday, but then Saturday we can figure it out and come over to my house for a little bit. We can go up to the Elks for a little bit, kind of do some of both. It'll be a long day. Starts at 11. Last game starts at 7. So it's really going to be about 12 hours. We don't need to be anywhere for 12 hours in a row. we can move around a little bit.
Yeah, 12 hours in one place might be that might be a little bit much. We'll move around, but I think they said Notre Dame, Indiana is going to be the highest chance of snow for any of the four. Obviously, down in Texas, there's not going to be any.
Right, but I do think there's a chance at Penn State too. But both of them are going to be around 30 degrees, so not like bitter cold, but cold. But yeah, I think Notre Dame is supposed to snow.
Yeah, Indiana probably.
That'll be really cool. Now, the only problem with that is it's not a problem. It's just the way it worked out. But I wish it was like Miami or Florida or Texas going up there instead of Indiana, who is used to that. They're practicing outside all week, ready for it. It'd be like Iowa State going to Notre Dame. It doesn't matter. They're used to that. They're not getting a huge advantage with that. Now, Penn State hosting SMU, that's a different deal. Now, Dallas isn't as warm as Florida or South Texas, but it definitely is better than Happy Valley, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, for sure. Did you want to make our picks now, or do you just want to talk through the weekend games and then do our first round? I wanted to just pick the first round this week, and then next week.
Yeah, we can do that because
our next picks if you want, or I don't know how we do it.
Let me pull out the notebook. So we can do that, and that way I can then we got it written down. Pull out. All right. So how about this? So Coleman Hawkins, who was at Illinois last year, hit a 3 with about 12 seconds left to tie the game in overtime, and then Drake just went down and hit a 3 to win it. Game over. How about that?
There we go. Good for Drake.
So Drake, guy that hit it is from Liberty, so right there in Kansas City, which is awesome. And this game's in Kansas City, so that's got to be super huge for him. I mean, just watching the replay here. Got 12.2 seconds left. Hawkins hit it. They get it to Sturts, and he just goes down and stop and pops. Yep. And then
that's gotta be exciting for Drake fans for sure.
Yeah, it's always good to watch local type kids and everything. And all right, so we got Notre Dame, Indiana. All right, we'll go Trevor, Ryan. Okay. All right, who you got? Now, are we picking to win?
I'm going to take Notre Dame. I think they do.
Or are we just going to pick winners here? Or are we going against the spread?
Yeah, just the winners.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to take Notre Dame to win the game in the first round.
I am too. I do think this game has a chance to be pretty good. I'm not 100% sold on Indiana. They played one really good team and got beat. But they only had one chance. So I don't know. And we really don't know how good Notre Dame is either. They haven't played anybody any good since Texas A&M first week of the year. Because Army and Navy are decent, but they're not great football teams. I thought Army was pretty good, but then Navy put it to them on Saturday. So Army, that was kind of funny. Did you watch any of that game, Trev?
Not much, no.
So at the beginning, they were talking about if you think about if you didn't, the names are what they are. So Notre Dame's always going to get the advantage. But Notre Dame's one loss was at home to Northern Illinois. Not a good loss. But 11-1, not a conference champion. Army, conference champion, one loss, neutral site against the number 3 team in the country or 4 team in the country. Who actually is a better resume? I mean, if they're going by who has a better loss, which is what they seem to do with Boise State. They love that loss to Oregon. It wasn't so much what they did to win. It was they loved the loss. Yeah, so Iowa State got beat by 33 points against UConn, so it's over as well. So not a good night for the Iowa State women. But, yeah, I picked Notre Dame as well. But I just thought that was interesting. They were bringing that up in the broadcast that if you go by best loss, then Notre Dame should be out.
Yeah, they're definitely going by the names and the talent disparity, which, I think we both know it's true. But, yeah, it's interesting if the name was different or the logo was different on the helmet or the colors.
All right, and then I believe the next game is the Penn State SMU game, right? That's the 11 o'clock game.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm going to take Penn State in this one.
I am too. What do you think about again, we've talked about this. We could talk about this for an entire podcast, but the Penn State backup quarterback going in the portal, he didn't have a choice. And I don't know why they cannot change this or refuse to change this until after the playoff. But they're forcing this kid to transfer right now instead of being able to stick with his team. Now, he could stay through.
I saw the story about it. Give me some backstory on that.
So he's a backup, and he plays in every game. There's package for him. It's kind of like Brendan Sullivan down by the goal line for Iowa. There's packages that he goes into and plays. But Drew Aller announced he's coming back next year. So he's going to be the backup again. Well, he doesn't want to be the backup. Understandable. No one wants to fight for their job anymore. That's a different argument. But he is assuming that he's going to be the backup again next year, and he doesn't want to be. So he has to go. He needs to go to the portal. Well, he can wait. He does not have to go to the portal. The portal for the guys in the playoff will stay open until 5 days after your team loses. Now, right now, it's open until December 28th. It's open for like 10 more days. But then after that, it's closed, except for teams that are still playing. But it is a game of musical chairs. Right now, if you're not in the portal and a team needs a quarterback or wants a quarterback, they don't know you're going. They take somebody else. And then now you don't have a seat there. So they're forcing his hand, I think. And it's not right. But it is what it is. The NCAA and all that just cannot figure out and can't get out of the way of college football.
Well, that's where we talk about I'm all for transfer portal, NIL money and all that. But we've talked about this many times. There's got to be some guidelines put in, just like the NFL free agency period, trade deadlines, et cetera. So that's something that has to get fixed. They've got to get a commissioner or a committee together to kind of put some rules in place, because we've talked about it's just the Wild West right now, and it's there's plenty of good, but there's plenty of bad just as well, though.
I saw a guy propose this, and I like this a little bit. Everybody's talking, they have to have the portal now because school is getting over, and then the next semester and everything else like that. But he goes, school's not over. It is semester. So classes are over, but transfer portal in May when everybody's school is out. And everybody's like, well, they need to get there for spring ball and do the winter workouts and everything else like that. And I do believe that. And I think that is, they need to get there as soon as they can. I do believe that. But he goes, what if we got rid of spring ball and starting at the end of May, you do more like what the NFL does, where you have free agency from, let's just say, May 10th to May 20th. 10 days, open game, free agency, run amok. 1,000 people in the portal, let's go. Let's have a race. But then starting Memorial Weekend, then you just like right after the draft, then have your OTAs and your mandatory, your non-mandatory, just like the NFL has all that stuff. And instead of starting camp August 1st or July 20th, whatever date, just essentially start football June 1st. And you just do football June, July, August, getting ready for the season. Then you can still go to school all the time. You're still working out. You're still trying to get better. You can have meetings. You could do, they do a lot of stuff on their own. You could do the winter workouts. And then at the end of the year, you want to go. And then everybody starts June 1st. And then let's just go. I kind of like that idea, because it used to be everybody needed a job, or that was the only time players could have a job. No one had indoor facilities. No one had everybody's got the nicest weight rooms. They all have indoor facilities where they can turn on the air conditioning. They don't have to do everything outside in 105-degree heat. There's plenty of money to take care of everything. All the players are getting stipends. If it's going to be pro sports, let's treat it like pro sports.
Yeah, I don't mind that idea at all for a free agency period, which essentially that's what it is. Call it whatever you want, but that needs to be put into place starting a little bit earlier. I know there's the 20-hour rule. Maybe they could expand on that too. Yep. I don't know if that'd be possible, but yeah, there needs to be a free agency period, just like the NFL. But there has to be some dates here, because coaches are recruiting year-round. They're recruiting high school players in college, and then they're having to recruit their own players to stay. So there has to be some certain dates put into place.
Correct. All right, and then we've got that. I think the 3:00 game is the Clemson Texas game, right?
Yep.
This is the one. I think Clemson's a live dog here. I think Texas is really good, but I think they are going to have a little bit of – they can't believe they lost that game to Georgia. And just a little bit of fatigue in that, because they shouldn't have lost that game. They played so much – they should have been way ahead in the first half, but they kept making a few mistakes and just couldn't score a touchdown. I do think there's going to be a little fatigue there. And then Texas just lately hasn't been able to step up. Clemson has the national championships. They've been in these games. Dabo knows what he's doing. I'm going to pick Texas, but if I was betting money or spread, I'm going to take Clemson.
You and I are on the same page of this one. Somebody else brought this up too. These home teams, that's an advantage, right? But there's a lot of pressure on the home teams too. You're expected to win these games. So if the games are close at halftime going into the third and fourth quarter, that's going to put more and more pressure on the home team. But yeah, Texas, I don't know what to make of them. They've got a ton of NFL talent, which is good. Quinn Ewers is kind of up and down, but I think Texas pulls it out at the end.
Yeah, I think this game is really close. Now, I'm going to pick all the home teams, but I do know that I don't believe all 4 home teams are going to win. There will be an upset here. And is the beauty of the tournament and a tournament in general when it's one and done.
Yeah, I'm picking all the home teams too. I know we talked about there's a lot of people picking Tennessee, which I understand. They have a great D line. Ohio State's O line is beat up, so that could end up being a mismatch. But I think Ryan Day knows his job's on the line. He's got to at least win this game minimum, and there'll probably be an upset. We've seen upsets all season except for Oregon. Now they almost did get upset by Boise State and Idaho there early on. So it is the beauty of the tournament, just like the NFL. You get these home teams, and there's always one or two that end up losing at home.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to pick them all to win, but I don't think they do. Tennessee kind of does. Their strengths are Ohio State's weaknesses, but Ohio State's really good. They have some of the best players. If they lose this game, does Ryan Day get fired? I know the AD said he's not going to, but does he get fired?
As long as they've got a replacement that they know that they can get right away, then yeah, I think he does if they lose this game. Now, I don't know if Vrabel would go back to college. He's probably going to get an NFL job, and we know the NFL life right now it's more structured. So I'd rather be in the NFL at this moment. Right. So I don't know. Would Urban Meyer come out of retirement for 3 or 4 years? I don't know if he want to do that to Ryan Day, but yeah, if they lose this game, they're definitely looking to get rid of Ryan Day. I think it just depends on who they could bring in to replace, though.
Yeah, it's just crazy. He's lost like 10 games in 6 years or 7 years, but he's lost the wrong games.
Yeah, he's lost the wrong ones. No, I don't know. There's a lot of pressure, obviously, on Ohio State, more than anyone right now in this first round. So I think Ohio State's going to come out ready to play. They were embarrassed. That whole after the game stuff was embarrassing. So this feels like a get-right game. And I hear so many people picking Tennessee. That's kind of why I'm going to Ohio State. Another reason.
Yeah, I would have liked to seen this game in Tennessee. Just flip-flop their seeds, which they definitely could have done. Having this at Rocky Top, Ohio State going on the road would have been really, really interesting. But I do think Ohio State has the best. They have the best team. That doesn't mean they're the most talented team, is what I should say, of everybody. But I don't think they win it. But would it shock any of us if they go win the whole thing? They did it in the first year of the playoff. They probably shouldn't even have got in. TCU and Baylor, one loss. TCU beat Iowa State 55-3 on the last week, and they put Ohio State in, and then Ohio State went on to win the whole thing. So it made them look smart. But I hope not, because I don't like Ohio State, but I definitely could see them going a long ways.
Yeah, I'd be fine if Tennessee won, and that wouldn't hurt my feelings any. But I do think that just everything that happened in that Michigan game and the aftermath, I'd have to think Ohio State players are going to be ready for this one.
I agree. Anything else? The one other thing with Iowa State, no real transfer portal guys that are starters. 2 guys on defense, 1 D lineman, 1 linebacker that played. But I think the linebacker situation was you had so many guys hurt and so many other guys had to play that I think he saw the writing on the wall that when the hurt guys come back and then the guys that got all the experience are there literally is not enough time if everybody's healthy next year for 9 linebackers. It's just the reality of life. So I think he saw the writing on the wall. But Matt Campbell did sign an extension, and TJ Otzelberger, both to 2032. I thought it was weird they both went to the same time frame. And I should have looked at this. I didn't. I got home and was doing a few things, laundry and stuff. Is 2032 a is that some type of new TV deal / when conferences can change again or something? I just thought it was weird.
I have no idea off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up.
So, but yes.
Yeah, I don't know if that had something to do with the TV deals or not. It's a good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, but we got both our guys for another 8 years. It'll be interesting to see what their pay is. If it is somewhat looking like Mike Norvell and Gundy, where they're paying some money to the NIL instead of getting it themselves, or they're paying the school's paying them, but then they're paying the NIL. However you want to do it, however you want the sheet to look. I do think that will be. I don't think it's going to be a big pay raise for either one individually. I would say coaches, some facility stuff, and then obviously some taking care of players. I do think there's going to be some money. You know, Iowa State is going to have to invest $2 million in the NIL world of that 20, or you're guaranteed to fully fund the $22 million or whatever number that is. There's going to be some wording in their contracts that promise them a certain amount of money for their players, I would think.
Yeah, but you got to be happy to have both those guys locked up. I mean, the way things are looking right now with both the football and the men's basketball team, that's got to be good news.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's as good as you can hope for. Obviously, our basketball team, they are a legit Final Four national championship contender. Now, things could change tomorrow. Somebody gets hurt, whatever. But as of December 17th at 9:30, they've got as good a chance as anybody winning the whole thing. They are good. We'll see when they start playing every game against high competition. We'll see how the two bigs do game in, game out when they're going against high level Big 12 competition. But so far, and in Maui when they were playing big dog teams, they looked really good. Iowa, they looked good. And we'll see, but they are legit. It's one of those Sweet 16 right now. If you only got the Sweet 16 right now, you'd be disappointed, which is really hard to say as a Cyclone fan or a Hawkeye fan because it just doesn't come around that much. But if we only get to Sweet 16 right now, as long as everybody stays healthy and everything, it would be a disappointing season.
Yeah, if this team goes in like this, that would be disappointing just to get to the Sweet 16. For Iowa and Fran just win a game, hopefully.
Right. You just want to right now. You want to get to the tournament. I mean, that's all you're trying to do, and then win a game, and then I'm telling you, this is the year that he's going to go to the Sweet 16 when there's no pressure. I mean, it's going to be weird.
It'll probably end up working out like that, and Iowa State maybe gets upset. I mean, hopefully not, but it could end up being something weird like that.
Right. Absolutely. No, but just, you want – I think those are the two best coaches we could have. Again, it's one of those you kind of said with Ryan Day. I don't know who you're going to get this better than either one of them at Iowa State. Now, it doesn't mean contracts are not really worth anything anymore. So, if they do fire Ryan Day and they call Matt Campbell and he goes to Ohio State, I can't blame him. The Chicago Bears are looking for a new coach. If he goes to the Chicago Bears, can you blame him? No. TJ Otzelberger, I think he's a college guy. I don't think he's an NBA guy, but, one of the big name, Bill Self retires at Kansas and Kansas calls and he goes down there. Can you blame him? No. Wisconsin calls. That one would be a little bit tough, but he's from Wisconsin. It's in the Big Ten. Money's different. It's just it's one of those. There are certain jobs that you dream about when you're a kid. Now Otzelberger's been at Iowa State for a long time. He's from Wisconsin, but he's probably spent more time in Iowa than anywhere now. And as an assistant for 3 different coaches, and now being the head coach. His wife went to Iowa State. She's from Australia, but so I think he'd be a little bit tougher to leave. But Matt Campbell definitely will have opportunities, already had opportunities. I'm sure he parlayed that North Carolina interest into a little bit more money or more years or whatever. That's what you should do when people show interest in you. But he's proven time and time again that he wants to stay at Iowa State. And as much as people don't like it, but he does really admire Kirk Ferentz and what he's done at Iowa. He really admired what the Kansas State coach that was there forever, Vampire. I forget his name now. Bill Snyder.
Oh, Bill Snyder?
Yep, Bill Snyder. What he did at Kansas State, he retired. They sucked, and then he came back. But what he did at Kansas State, didn't leave for the first job, stayed and made it. And yes, you're not going to go win the national title, but you can be very, very successful, win conference championships, go to big-time games. Now you can playoffs. Iowa State was one game away this year from the playoffs. So you have every opportunity. As we talked about, the playoff is going to change, and as long as the Big 12 has a chip at the table, I think you can keep Matt Campbell. If somehow the chip leaves, then it's going to be hard.
Yeah, I think they'll keep the chip at the table for the Big 12. They should always get one team in my opinion, whoever wins the conference championship. So, no, for Campbell, both those coaches, they seem to like it at Iowa State. That's good news, like I said, for Iowa State. But as you said, contracts, though, they only mean so much nowadays. If somebody comes and doubles or triples the salary, you can't blame anybody. We all want to make more money.
Right. And then some people just have, dreams or just aspirations. And, I know he grew up a Cleveland fan. The Browns, they definitely could be looking for a coach. The Bears, that's Midwest. Now, I would advise him not to go to either one of those places because they're both really bad run organizations. But it's still one of 30 jobs, and you can't blame anybody for trying. And then he could always go back to college if he wanted. That's kind of what happens.
Or you can pull Bill Belichick and have a 400-page rule book that he had for North Carolina, and he can already leave. I think January 1st.
July
some
1.
Clause in his contract that maybe it's July 1. Sorry, July 1.
It's the summer, which his buyout goes all the way down to $1 million, which is weird timing because who would hire him after July 1? So I do think he's going to be there for 1 year. But after that, we don't know. If somehow
I think he's smart to do that because this whole college has changed.
Yeah, I think if
college has changed so much that he may not like it, and that was smart on his part to put that in because if he does well there, July 1st next year. So yeah, it's weird to see Bill go to North Carolina regardless. I didn't expect him to go to college. I didn't even see that coming. I thought NFL for sure. But I think he knows that with all this transfer stuff, all the chaos in college, he's probably smart enough to realize he may only want to do this 1 year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Let's just say he goes 10-2 next year and is ranked 10th in the country. It worked. And then he can get back into the NFL. He can say, hey, I can still coach. Or he stays there. But I mean, yeah, he goes 10-2 next year, $1 million buyout. NFL owner will write that check in a heartbeat. They don't even know what $1 million is. That's what's really sad, but it really doesn't matter to them when you're worth billions and billions. So it's brilliant by him. So I do think he coaches 1 year there, and then we'll see from there. But can you imagine him sitting in a living room of a parent? I mean, he's older than a lot of these kids' grandparents. I mean, you think like my parents are.
No, I really can't imagine that. That's that would be weird to see because Bill's he's changed a little bit since he left the Patriots or got let go. That whole thing. He's been on TV doing more stuff with McAfee, so maybe he's changed a little bit. But they said Dion doesn't really travel around for recruits. I don't know if Bill's going to travel very much. I think he's going to stay on the East Coast for the most part. Maybe he'll send the son to do the rest.
Yeah, but just, he's older than my parents. And, I have a daughter that's a junior in high school. So she would be getting recruited right now by a buddy if she would, and he's older than my parents. That's crazy.
Yeah, and his girlfriend's a little bit younger than he is.
Just a tad. Yeah, we could go on that conversation for a long time too. But let's go to the NFL. The NFL is heating up. Last few weeks, I want to start with the Chiefs. Win again. Mahomes gets hurt with about 4 minutes left. High ankle sprain is what it is. That's not good. And they have 3 games in like a week and a half, or 2 more games now. They had 3, but now they play Saturday and then they play Christmas Day, right?
Correct, and he's had a high ankle sprain before, and that's when he played some of his best football. So he's had this injury and done well with it. The Chiefs are so far ahead right now in the standings that you almost wondered you just hold him out 1 week and let Carson Wentz go play. It'd be a tough call, but I saw he was a full participant today, so Mahomes wants to play.
Yeah, and no doubt in my mind, if they were behind or if that was only a 1-score game, he would have been back in the game. But it was a 2-score game. 4 minutes left. It literally was just don't mess up, and they should win the football game. And Wentz, right or wrong, he has won football games in the NFL. He struggled lately, but he was a quarterback for the Eagles that went to the Super Bowl and beat the Patriots until he got hurt in December. And then Folds went on the magical run. But he was a quarterback for almost all the year.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of talent. He's working with Andy Reid. We know Andy Reid, all the quarterbacks he's ever worked with have probably their most success. So my theory on backups is, can they keep you around 500 when they're in there? They don't have to win 3 straight or 4 straight, but can they keep you around 500? Now, when it gets later in the season, that may change a little bit depending where you are in the standings. But yeah, a good backup to me, if they have to play 4 games, can they go 2-2 and just keep the ship above water?
So are they 1 game or 2 games ahead of the Bills now? The Bills have 3 losses?
I think it's Bills have 3. I'm pulling up the standings now. I was just looking at it before we got started. Bills have 3 currently.
Yeah, so they're 2 games up, kind of, because the Bills beat them, right? That was their 1 loss.
Right.
So if they tie, then the Bills have it.
Yeah,
so they're really on 1 game ahead. So, yeah, you don't want to lose because you would love to not have to go to Buffalo again.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to lose. You want to get that home field advantage, have the playoffs run through Arrowhead. The NFC's got 3 teams in the mix, potentially 4, but really 3 teams in the mix for that number 1 seed with the Eagles, the Lions, and the Vikings. And just it's kind of crazy for the Lions to be 12-2 right now. Most years you'd be basically locked up to win your division, and they might go from the 1 or 2 seed in the NFC down to the 5. They could be on the road the first round, and given their injuries on defense, they're
going to be 1 or 5 because that's what the Vikings are too. I mean, they're going to win the division or be the first wild card because the other team's going to win the division. Unless there's some upsets throughout the, over the next couple of weeks. But they play week 18, and that might be for the 1 seed but yeah, the Lions are in trouble with their injuries. Montgomery's out for the year now. They're really, really good, but they're really, really hurt, and that's not good.
It's bad timing for the Lions. We talk about it every year. The last 4 or 5 weeks of the season is really important. Who goes in with momentum and who doesn't? And the Lions, they started out so hot that they've got so many guys on the IR. I feel like they've emptied the tank the past 2 weeks versus the Packers and the Bills. And some of these backups that are playing, they'll probably find a gem or 2, out of some of these guys. But most of these backups are backups for a reason because they're not as good, obviously. So the offense is going to have to really put up some points every week, and that also puts a lot of pressure on the offense. Dan Campbell's onside kick I didn't like. Most of his decisions that he's made, aggressive ones, I've always supported. But that one, I thought with 12 minutes, I thought if it was 7 or less, I would have agreed with it probably. But that was a little too aggressive. And you can tell the pressure's getting on him too, because he knows his defense can't stop anybody.
Right. And that when he's sitting in his office during the week, and him and the GM or whoever all makes all those personnel decisions, or that Sunday night or Monday, whenever they go through the injury report and what actually happened to everybody, what he's just got to be pulling out his hair and drinking 5 coffees a day instead of just 2 or whatever he has. I mean, he has to just be like, you got to be kidding me, with a lot of expletives in there. Expletives. Sorry, I said that.
Yeah, it sucks because they built this team the right way. The good news for the Lions is they're not going anywhere the next 3 or 4 years. They're one of the best drafting teams right now under Brad Holmes. They've got guys under contract. So if this year doesn't work out, I still think for the next 3 or 4, they're going to be in the mix every year in the NFC.
Yeah. Are the Vikings proving to be really good, or are they still just a little bit of smoke and mirrors in your opinion?
I don't know what to make. It's the Sam Darnold thing that's the biggest question mark for me, because he had all his previous career, he wasn't good at all. Now he's lighting it up. So, yeah, I do think that if they can get a home playoff game, or if they can win the division, I should say, or get the number 1 seed and the playoffs run through Minneapolis, I'm starting to think there's maybe a chance that they could get it done. But, yeah, it's a little bit it's just weird to see Sam Darnold doing so well.
Yeah, and that's another coach that's kind of a quarterback whisperer. Be interested to see what happens with Daniel Jones there. Just if, especially when the offseason hits, if he just sticks around there and tries to learn and do things the right way. I do think last year being in San Francisco, we talked about this before, but Sam Darnold being with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy, which is it's weird to say a younger guy, but learning how to do things and how to do things the right way. Now, Shanahan has most to do with that. Brock Purdy has his way of doing things, but he learned it from Kyle Shanahan and others. I know Sage Rosenfeld has had a lot of things to do with Brock Purdy because he's a Shanahan. Sage is a Shanahan guy, played for Mike in Washington. Kyle was he was there when Kyle was the young guy, and McVay was the young guy, and LaFleur. All those guys were those young coaches. They weren't even coordinators. They were just a quarterback and receiver and analysts and whatever. So that has really helped Brock in his NFL career, and just learning the situation and knowing what Shanahan wants. Brock is an interesting take. What are they going to do? He's probably losing a little bit of money the last few weeks. He's not playing as well, but they're all hurt as well. So, I mean, it's one of those, you can only do so much.
Yeah, he hasn't had the season that I thought he was going to have. I thought the team would regress a little just because of the Super Bowl hangover and all the extra games that we've talked about before, the wear and tear. But if it works like it works for every other quarterback, it's next man up. I don't know right now if I'd be comfortable giving him $60 million a year, but if I was the 49ers, I'd try to play this out as long as I could, because you want to make sure before you hand out a 3 or 4 year deal. We're seeing what happened with Daniel Jones in New York, Tua in Miami. Tua's got an injury history. That's a little bit different, but in Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. So, yep, Kirk Cousins. So the Niners want to play this out as long as they can, but the NFL, I always think there's going to be an NFL team that says no or lets a pretty decent quarterback, we think, walk, and maybe this will be that time. But if it works like it typically does, then he's probably going to get paid.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's going to get $45 million. He may not get 60, but $45 million is still pretty good. And it's one of those, or is he a Shanahan guy, and do they let Shanahan walk, and then he goes with Shanahan somewhere? I mean, that could happen as well.
I don't think they're going to let Shanahan walk at all. I see no way. He's way too good of a coach. to let
I
walk.
agree,
He'd have
but
a job just like Andy Reid. No, I don't think that's going to happen. No, I'm sure they'd like to keep him, and they can play it out. There's a franchise tag. You could see if he'd be open to a hometown discount, as I like to call it. But I don't know how often guys really do the hometown discount. I don't even always know what that means. There's so many contracts in the NFL. Mostly we pay attention to the quarterback ones, of course. But yeah, Brock hasn't had quite the year that I thought he was going to have. The team's all hurt. There's the Super Bowl hangover, but I expect Shanahan and Brock Purdy to both be obviously to be back next year, of course.
And they've not been good, but they aren't out of it yet. Because the NFC West just keeps losing enough. Seattle would have locked it up essentially, but then they lose to the Packers on Sunday night. They're not out of it yet, which is really sad because they're not good.
No, I think the Rams are going to end up winning that division. Rams are a team getting hot right now, and that's one thing that I always tell you. Look who goes in on a winning streak, and right now they've currently got one. They've got Stafford and McVay, who have both won a Super Bowl together. McVay's been to 2 as a head coach. So if the Rams end up winning that division, all these NFC North teams right now that would be in, the Lions have the injuries, but everybody else is hot right now. Like all these teams, I think the matchups would be pretty tough to pick. Anybody could come out. The Bucs are playing great.
The Eagles are starting to have some issues as well, but they keep winning. They've got internal issues. They're starting to have a little bit of injury issues, but they keep winning as well.
Yeah, I don't know what goes on in Philadelphia. Before the season, they had the story that Sirianni and Hurts didn't have a relationship. And then week 4, he got into it with the fans, and I thought it was over. And they go on this winning streak. And then last week, A.J. Brown basically calls out Hurts. Fletcher Cox goes on a radio show and says, yeah, I don't know what happened. They used to be friends. It's like, good Lord, guy, don't say that. And then this week, they had the blow-ups on the sideline. And I can't decide if that's just how the team runs because it's Philadelphia and they have the craziest fans in the NFL, or if it's going to rear its ugly head. I think it could because I don't know. You don't see this much drama with a team that's 12-2.
I agree, and it may just be how they operate. And Sirianni is just the ringleader of it all because he's crazy as well, and he has his own issues, and that's just how they operate. But you can't really argue. Last year wasn't good, but they went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They're right in the mix for the number 1 seed in the NFL or in the NFC here. And as long as they keep winning, you can put up with all that stuff if you're winning. And we've all been there. We all know that. But once things start going south, then it goes south in a hurry.
Yeah, everything I see with the Eagles, the sideline, the stories, the off-the-field stuff, that's all stuff you see with bad teams. And they're one of the best teams in the league. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a Philadelphia thing. To me, those are just so many red flags, but they keep winning. The roster is awesome. So whatever happened after week 4 there with Nick Sirianni, he got the ship corrected. He had, like I said, he probably had to come to Jesus moment with management, and whatever they did, it's working.
Yeah, and kind of another weird, we talked about the 49ers at length a couple minutes ago, but they had a weird situation themselves with the linebacker walking off and quitting. But yet he's only suspended for 3 games. Is that an NFL player deal where they can't just cut him or something? Or what's going on there? Do you know?
Well, when that happened, most incidences when there's drama like this, I usually go with the rule, let's wait 24 to 48 hours, let cooler heads prevail. But if they would have cut him that night or the next morning, this is one of those incidences I would have been okay with. Kittle and other players called him out, in the post-game press conference. You don't see that very often, which I like because we've talked about it before. The NFL is about playing hurt. You don't want this to turn into the NBA where they're coddling players and just bowing down to them. As far as not cutting him or not, I almost wonder, since they're still in the playoff mix,
if they need him.
The Rams and the Seahawks both need help at that. Yeah, they could bring him in, even if just for that, inside information. Now, how much that actually helps or not, I never know how much stock to put into that. I mean, football still comes down to blocking and tackling and ball security. you can have an idea of what the other team's going to do, but if you can't tackle or block, then it doesn't really matter.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was weird they didn't cut him. They suspended him for 3 games, which is essentially the rest of the year, right? Everybody have 3 games left? Or do they have 4?
Yeah, everybody should have. Yep, all the buys should be over now. Everybody should have 3. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe he talked to the team after and owned it, but that was one of the weird situations. I think John Lynch was ticked off. I mean, the entire team was mad because they're fighting for a playoff spot,
right?
And that's the best thing about football is you don't quit. You get your ass out there and play. It's not the NBA, and that's why the NFL is doing so good, and the NBA ratings. Domestically, at least, are dropping.
And that we probably should have a conversation about that sometime. This isn't the time for it, but yeah, the NBA ratings are dropping like a rock, and there are several reasons for it. And I know, and you hit the nail on the head there. Domestic ratings are down. That's the problem. Is the best players in the NBA right now are mostly all foreigners, and that is a thing. And then obviously, just with the load management is another issue, but I would say those are the 2 big things in the NBA why the ratings are down. And the NBA just re-upped their deal for all kinds of money, and they're going to have to figure it out because those partners are going to want their money, want to make money on them. And if not as many people are watching, then their advertising dollars go down.
Yeah, when you got, 82 or 84 games in the NBA. The good thing about the NFL, we've talked about this, is the scarcity of games. Now, we all know the NFL is going to go to 18. What I hope, though, is, and I'm sure the NFL is smart enough to know this, please do not go to 19 or 20 someday, because this past week, it was probably the worst weekend so far of the year for injuries. And you don't want to have too many games where once the playoffs start, all the stars are out, you got quarterbacks out. So I hope the NFL is smart enough to know we better just cap it at 18 regular season games.
Yeah, and they're just taking out those preseason games. The owners and the league has always looked at it as an 18 or 20 game season. Because when you have a season, and we've talked about this, when you have a season ticket to the Chiefs or the Bears, you're paying the same amount of money for those 2 preseason home games as you are for every other game. And it's the same price to park, and it's the same. You're buying a 10 home games. That's just what you're paying for. And that won't change. And so I understand what they're going to do. They're just going to eliminate all the preseason games, would be my guess, and just have them all regular season.
I think they'll probably keep 1 preseason game, possibly. Maybe they'll do 2. But yeah, once you go to 18, then everyone's got 9 home, 9 away. Right now, you go every other year type of deal. So that's not ideal either. But yeah, I hope the NFL doesn't get too greedy. And in 10 years, all of a sudden we're looking at 20 or 22 regular season games, because then you start losing the interest a little bit. The good thing about football at any level is the scarcity of games. Every game is really important. If the Yankees lose a random Tuesday game early in the season, no one really cares. It's all about, they all add up at the end, but it's not the last month. We talked about that with the WNBA. They only played 40 games last year. Well, if you had a 4-game losing streak in the WNBA, that'd be like losing 8 straight in the NBA, because it was half the games essentially. So I just hope they don't get to a point where we're at 22 games or something for the regular season, because it's football and injuries are going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, there has to be a point, but yet as long as there's money to be made, it's tough. And yeah, because then you're going to start, if you go to 20 games, you're going to have some people just sitting out more. Hey, I'm a little bit banged up, but October 10th, you're undefeated. We can lose this game. It doesn't matter. And that's going to start happening in the NFL. But right now it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in college football. And it's a sweet spot, and they're going to keep pushing it. But like you said, let's hope they don't go too far to ruin the sweet spot.
Yep, and good for the 49ers and also good for the Ravens. They suspended Deontay Johnson temporarily, the receiver they traded for from the Panthers, a former Steelers guy, because he didn't want to go into the game a while back. And But good on the NFL and good on the players actually to call their teammates out or to do things like this, to put pressure on the play, because that's what makes football the best is everybody's hurt. You got to get out there and play.
Yeah, the career's so much shorter. The contracts aren't guaranteed. Most of them aren't making as much money as everybody else. Everybody's just trying to make a living as long as you can in the NFL. Get through it relatively healthy and make it work. Make your 5 years and then go about your business.
Yep. So when that next CBA comes up, the players are going to get more money, but the flip side is another regular season game. That's the trade-off. Everybody knows it's coming. So, the playoffs are heating up. There's a lot of close battles. That NFC North is wild. I mean, 12-2 teams. Packers are 10-4. I mean, that's insane. And the poor Bears sitting there at the bottom, like they are a lot. And it's weird because three. You look at Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and even Drake May showing a lot of promise.
Right.
And Caleb has his moments. I think he's got 17 touchdowns, 5 picks on the year, but he takes way too many sacks. But the thing that concerns me is most years, there was 6 taken in the first round this year. If 3 are good, that's a pretty good draft class.
Right.
So 3 are already looking good. Caleb's looking pretty good. That's 4 out of the 6. And we haven't seen Penix or McCarthy play. Penix, they just announced about an hour ago.
Penix
He's going to start
playing now.
Thank God. But if these guys, we won't know for a couple more years. But if Caleb takes another step, if they get the right coach, that's a big if for the Bears, as we know. And then if Penix or McCarthy are any good, this could be an all-time draft class for the quarterback position. This last year.
All right. One last thing we want to hit on before we end tonight is, and I wouldn't have thought this was controversial, and I'll be honest, I stay off of Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and that stuff for the most part. I mean, I'm on it. I'll do stuff and I'll post stuff, but I don't just sit there on it all day. But Caitlyn Clark wins the Time Athlete of the Year. Great award, well-deserved. Had a nice long interview, and I guess it took like 30 minutes to read the article, so it was very in-depth. She made a comment about she understands she had privilege growing up. She's very lucky, and I didn't read. I'll be honest, I did not read the article, and this is all secondhand, but lots and lots of backlash. Angel Reese is chiming in. Everybody's chiming in that she shouldn't have said it, or she should have said it, or why'd she take so long to say it. As a society, we just can't wait to tear people down no matter what they do. They're darned if they do, and they're darned if they don't. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, she was in a no-win situation. If she wouldn't have said nothing, she would have got blamed for it. So
right.
Angel Reese could go kick rocks for all I care. So could everybody else in the WNBA. All these women trying to tear each other down. That's a whole nother topic. WNBA has been waiting forever for viewership and all this other stuff. She brought it. She's the main catalyst. She's the athlete of the year. Get over it.
Yeah, I agree. But it's unbelievable. You turn on talk radio and they're all like, and Iowa talk radio is like, I don't know what she did. I don't see it. But anytime Jamel Hill gets involved, it's never good. She just can't help herself. Does she still work for ESPN or not? Or do you know?
I don't know if she does, but she's a loser. I mean, most of these people are. That
Whitlock was losing his mind. It doesn't matter what Caitlyn Clark
does. Yeah, it's just a loser mentality, and that's why the WNBA has never been popular until now, because it's just a bunch of loser mentality. So I've got I don't feel bad for any of. Well, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, she has never said anything. She says what she thinks. She always takes the high road, and she does a great job. And people just can't handle it. And again, they just want to tear people down that are successful. And the other thing that I think came up, she was one of the top 100 women, most powerful women in the world or in the country or something, which is awesome. She's 22 or 23 years old and already making an impact like that. So I hope she can continue this and just keep doing what you're doing, Caitlyn, because you're doing everything right, in my opinion.
Yeah, she deserved the award. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we saw the ratings with all the games, just the blow up of when she was in college, of course, the last year, and then the WNBA blowing up. So this was a no-brainer. It's just it's the jealousy factor continuing on, and maybe it'll just continue forever. I don't know.
All right, that's probably a good tonight. I do want to tease our next episode. It might be all of us. It might just be him and I, but especially those people around Oskaloosa. Everybody does know that the Iowa State Cyclones play the Miami Hurricanes in the Pop-Tarts Bowl on the 28th. And I'm in talks, and we're trying to make it work where the local Miami Hurricanes fan will join the Morgan You Asked For podcast if we can make it work. So I have been in discussions, and we're ironing out the details, his pay, his everything else like that. I'm just joking there, but we're trying to make it work, and hopefully we can get the local Miami Hurricanes fan on the podcast next week to preview the Iowa State bowl game and talk a little bit Miami Hurricanes in the 1980s, which that'd be quite an episode if we could get that done. I'm sure of that.
Well, I hope we can make it work. We got to get them on here. There'll be some good stories for sure, preview the game and everything else. And then, yeah, looking forward to this weekend, and I will see you on Saturday.
Yep. We'll get together on Saturday. Like I said, I'll be Monday, Friday, I'll be at my parents', but I'll be back Friday night. So probably late, but yeah, Saturday we'll figure out some at the Elks and some here. So, all right, we'll talk to you later, and we'll talk next week, and we'll talk on Saturday and try to figure out next week's podcast. So,
all right, have a good night.